of the Tuaregs in the north of the country.
That's right. It's an interesting piece by Peter Rutland, and he says that the core of the conflict in Mali is this national secession movement of the Tuareg people. And he looks back at the different uprisings of the Tuareg people since the 1960s and says that they've been ignored by the West up until now because now they've been hijacked by this Islamist movement. Now, he points out that during the Cold War, the West had a hard time separating out communism from nationalism, and because of that, it ignored demands for self-determination by minority groups. And he says that that's what the West is doing now in the war on terror, except for now the question is, are they nationalists or are they Islamists? Now, he says that whatever happens, the Tuaregs are going to have to be part of the future peace process.
And the paper's also focusing on France's appeal to Gulf states for help.
That's right. The foreign minister, Laurent Fabius, went to the United Arab Emirates yesterday to ask for help. In The Independent, Patrick Cockburn says that as long as the cash is rolling in, the West appears untroubled by these Gulf monarchies, which he says are some of the most undemocratic states in the world. And it's ironic as well because reportedly some private donors in these Gulf states are believed to be the main supporters of al-Qaeda in these regions.
Now, the situation in Pakistan is getting a lot of attention. This is after the Supreme Court there ordered the arrest of the Prime Minister.
That's right. Dawn, the Pakistani paper, has a quote from the former president of the Supreme Court Bar Association, Asma Jahangir, that you see there. Now, she says this wasn't merely a coincidence. All this is part of a political conspiracy. Meanwhile, the Wall Street Journal Asia calls the Supreme Court a rogue branch of the government and says that this is really only the beginning of Pakistan's political problems, because on top of that, you have this mysterious Sufi cleric who critics say is actually a front for the military. He's come back and called on his followers to stage a revolution. You have tensions rising on the border with India. Now, the Wall Street Journal says that the real thread behind all these troubles is the general election that's to be held in May. And in the meantime, all this unrest is opening the door up for extremist groups to spread their ideology.
A lot of the British papers are focusing on something totally different, a landmark legal battle at the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg.
That's right. There's a photo in The Guardian today of a woman named Nadia Awida. There you see her there celebrating, and she's proudly showing off her cross. Now, she was forced out of her job at British Airways for wearing this cross, but yesterday the European Court for Human Rights ruled that British Airways had breached her human rights, and in particular, her right to freedom of thought, consciousness, and religion. Now, a lot of people are calling for the British government to look at its law and religious symbols at work and take this recent ruling into account. Meanwhile, Nadia Awida says that this is a vindication for all Christians.
There's another story which has been around all week, actually, hasn't it, in the newspapers, in China, and the continuing pollution, but you want to come back to it.
That's right. It keeps getting a lot of attention, especially in the China Daily. Today, China Daily compares Beijing to London, especially London back in 1952, and you see a photo there of the Great Smog. Now, according to China Daily, Beijing suffers from London's old problems, which are coal-fire-powered stations, and London's current problems, which is a lot of traffic, and Beijing needs to tackle both of these problems. The China Daily also compares Beijing to other industrialized countries, Mexico City, Manila, Tehran, and says that it needs to learn the lessons from the past in these cities as well.
And finally, this is one that's going to please our producer, Chris, who's actually going to the US this week for this. Barack Obama getting ready for his second inauguration. Chris, it's going to be a party, apparently.
It's going to be a big party. 800,000 people are expected to hit Washington, D.C., including Chris. Now, details are starting to leak, and The Independent reveals some of them. Now, there'll be 2 official balls this year. That's down from 9 back in 2009. If you haven't bought your ticket yet, Chris, you'll need to dish out $1 million. But you'll be able to hear Barack Obama and Michelle dance to Stevie Wonder, Alicia Keys, and Beyonce. But Chris, you're going to have to wait to just see what Michelle's wearing. We don't know yet.
He says it's a bit flashy for him. We'll all contribute €0.50 for you, Chris. Perhaps you'll make it. Flo, thanks so much for us with the international papers on France. So let's come here on Live from Paris. Business for you. More pain for the French car industry. Renault this time, announcing plans to cut thousands of jobs. More on that. Will be here after the break.
Re-elected November 6th, Barack Obama officially takes office on January 21st. Will he use the next 4 years to make good on the promises made in 2008? What can he do to get the economy back on track? How will he respond to the major diplomatic challenges facing him? Can he restore hope to an increasingly divided America? Join us live on France 24 for the inauguration of Barack Obama in his final term in office.